contributing. So, Pete, we look forward to you. I know you're an energetic guy and a competitive guy to see if you can take on Joe on that issue. But what is not a laughing matter, my friends. This is why 3 people own more wealth than the bottom half. This is why Amazon and other major corporations pay 0 in federal taxes. We need to get money out of politics. We should run our campaigns on that basis.
Thank you, Senator Sanders.
Yeah, I really, really like that response there from Bernie Sanders. It was a perfect way because he wasn't lucky enough, or he wasn't, some would say, the media favorite enough to get the chance to go after Pete Buttigieg in the first place. And I mean, again, I think it's better and probably more appropriate that Buttigieg and Warren do go after each other. I think for Bernie taken for the fact that they were feuding a little bit before this debate. They're trading some barbs before the debate really got off. But this was also quite awkward. Amy Klobuchar, SDNN says, shuts down Pete Buttigieg over a political experience and ability to win. So this was a little interesting.
I look at this a different way. When we were in the last debate, Mayor, you basically mocked the 100 years of experience on the stage. And what do I see on this stage? I see Elizabeth's work starting the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and helping 29 million people. I see the Vice President's work in getting $2 billion for his cancer moonshot. I see Senator Sanders' work of working to get the Veterans Bill passed across the aisle. And
by the way, they cut to Biden here in the video of this debate and this moment, and he just looks like he is glazed over. He does not look good.
See what I've done, which is to negotiate 3 farm bills and be someone that actually had major provisions put in those bills. So while you can dismiss committee hearings, I think this experience works. And I have not denigrated your experience as a local official. I have been one. I just think you should respect our experience when you look at how you evaluate someone who can get things done.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Mayor.
And I mean, she's really got a pretty good point there. Like, Washington experience is not something that can just be denigrated. Like, Bernie Sanders has had plenty of years of Washington experience. Like, he's done a lot of good things with it, in my opinion. Elizabeth Warren has done good things in her Washington experience. Joe Biden, much less so. But the Washington experience is what you make of it. It's not necessarily good. It's not necessarily bad. It's what you do in that time that I think really counts. And Pete Buttigieg coming in and just destroying that base, especially with his background, especially with the fact that he joined a company that literally was designed to help big corporations make as much money as possible off the backs of their workers. Like, that is not, like, experience should not be a game that he wants to get into. And I think Amy Klobuchar could have popped on a little bit of that McKinsey action there as well. So, like, the fact that he worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield, and then right after that they laid off workers and cut costs and pretty much fired workers and hired non-union ones. But that's always a very interesting thing there. So here's Buttigieg's response, which I think kind of goes really unrelated to the question. And again, I'm going to remind you before I play this, she was talking about Washington experience and resumes.
I'll give you a chance to respond.
You actually did denigrate my experience, Senator, and it was before the break, and I was going to let it go because we got bigger fish to fry here. But you implied
I don't think we have bigger fish to fry than picking a president of the United States.
You're right. And before the break, you seemed to imply that my relationship to the First Amendment was a talking point, as if anyone up here has any more or less commitment to the Constitution than anybody else up here. Let me tell you about my relationship to the First Amendment. It is part of the Constitution that I raised my right hand and swore to defend with my life. That is my experience, and it may not be the same as yours, but it counts, Senator. It counts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Senator Klobuchar, you have 45 seconds to respond.
I certainly respect your military experience. That's not what this is about.
And you can't lose with the military experience.
And I know my view of this is I know you ran to be chair of the Democratic National Committee. That's not something that I wanted to do. I want to be president of the United States. And the point is, we should have someone heading up this ticket that has actually won and been able to show that they can gather the support that you talk about of moderate Republicans and independents, as well as a fired-up Democratic base. And not just done it once. I have done it 3 times. I think winning matters. I think a track record of getting things done matters. And I also think showing our party that we can actually bring people with us, have a wider tent, have a bigger coalition, and yes, longer coattails, that matters.
Thank you, Senator. Denise?
I got to respond to that. Senator, I know that if you just go by vote totals, maybe what goes on in my city seems small to you. If you want to talk about the capacity to win, try putting together a coalition to bring you back to office with 80% of the vote as a gay dude in Mike Pence's Indiana.
Here comes the slam. No, wait. They completely did not include the slam in the video, which is a good response for Klobuchar. But the thing is, I just saw it on Twitter, so I will play it for you here. Wait, I'm sorry. You gotta hold on.
Again, I would, Mayor, if you had won in Indiana, that would be one thing. You tried and you lost by 20 points.
Ooh, you tried to win in Indiana. You tried to win statewide, bitch, but you lost by 20 points. So yeah, great way for Klobuchar, and they just did not include in this video at all whatsoever. They completely edited that out. But yeah, she's definitely she did land some pretty good punches on Mayor Pete, but I think also Pete probably landed some pretty good punches back at her from kind of obfuscating the issue and making it much less of a deal than I think it turned out to be. But less than 2 months again here before the Iowa caucuses, the race does remain highly fluid with considerable room for movement, not just among the top few candidates, but among underdogs as well. Buttigieg has become a target for his rivals because of his growing strength, especially in Iowa, but also because there's something about this dude who won again with 8,000 votes, not statewide, not when he was running for the state treasurer where we got crushed and went to the Tea Party. Yes, the Tea Party. He went to the Tea Party as a Democrat for endorsements. Was literally saying, well, I don't think the Tea Party's all that bad. I mean, come on. Yes, that's true. That actually happened again. But this is just a absolute mess of a resume here. He's got the McKinsey thing. It seems like it's really been tailor-made. It seems like it's very like plastic surgerized into place. Like he's been really constructed it to run for president almost. And he only won with 8,000 votes in Mike Pence's Indiana for sure. The territory in which he won was in Mike Pence's Indiana, but also it's an incredibly liberal, incredibly diverse college town. Which he has somehow managed to make every single African American in absolutely hate him from the time that he was elected last to the time that he was what am I going to say here? When he was the mayor, when he first got elected as a mayor, he's pretty much made every single African American person hate him. In that, by mismanaging the police shooting, by firing the black police chief, like he has not done well with that community. So, and again, he's trying to run the country here. I think that inexperience and that lack. Also, I think it's also deeply tied to that inexperience and that lack of a strong resume. Is also deeply tied to his relationship with black voters. So there is that. Buttigieg nudged voters' attention to the general election, arguing no matter what happens in the Senate, it's up to us in 2020. But it's actually very, very important what's happened in the Senate. So, also, again, by the way, shout out to Mr. Andrew Yang, who did make the most out of the least when it came to speaking time. He pretty much said he was a pretty strong and stern voice of criticism. He was a former tech executive, mounted an underdog campaign. He described impeachment as a distraction from more important economic issues, suggesting Trump's acquittal in the Senate was a foregone conclusion. Yang likened it to a ball game where you know what the score is going to be going in. He said that Democrats should focus on offering a positive vision for the country. And again, you should not be wanting to run on impeachment. I think Yang has that absolutely right. The Democrats were particularly unsparing with regard to the president's foreign policy record, calling him an ally to tyrants and a figure of fun on on the international stage. And I think it's a nice thing to have. It's a nice thing to have, but again, when it comes to all in all, I think you got to focus on not just orienting your foreign policy around a response to the president, but an actual real lefty foreign policy. That's going to be hard to. It's going to be very, very hard to realize in this Democratic Party. I think very, very few people showed that they had it. So, yeah, I also want to talk about Joe Biden. Former Vice President Joe Biden may still be the Democratic leader in the national polls, but you wouldn't know it from Thursday's debate. From the third consecutive face-off, he's often faded into the background, and that very well could be a good thing for him. He ranked 5th in speaking time out of 7 candidates, 4 or 5 minutes less than Sanders, Buttigieg, Warren, and Klobuchar. So, yeah, he only got 15 minutes, where Bernie Sanders actually the leader in this debate. This is how you know it was well done, that they got the most speaking time in this debate. I'm just biased. He was the subject of remarkably few swipes and only got 15 minutes of speaking time as opposed to Bernie Sanders' 20. And at one point, Biden literally took a step back from his microphone as rivals went back and forth, covering his face to not suppress what appeared to be laughter over an exchange that he was not involved in. It wasn't until the final stretches when Sanders and Biden debated over foreign policy and healthcare that he was even then it was mostly civil. He was like, "Put your hand down for a second, Bernie," because he wanted to talk next. He was in the 2-finger hand raise, but he was like, "Put your hand down for a second, Bernie," Biden instructed. But he didn't. He was very. I think it helped him. It definitely helped him to not talk, because you get the sense the more he talked, the more he would go off babbling and rambling like old crazy Uncle Joe again. But that did kind of get apparent near the end, where he was like, "I've interrupted before. I've been interrupted before. I'm the only guy that doesn't interrupt here. Okay, I'm not going to interrupt." Like, that's what he was talking about. He got to talk about his record on foreign affairs. He pledged to bring combat troops back from Afghanistan and took swings at President Trump, his favorite target, whom he accused of dumbing down the presidency beyond what he even thought he would do. He also got off a one-liner about President Obama's recent remarks about older men not stepping aside. He said, quote, "I'm not going to guess he was talking about. I'm going to guess he wasn't talking about me." Yeah, so he was a polling leader, but it didn't really feel like it, departing relatively unscathed. Then, are people going to forget about him? Who knows? Yeah, little infuriates Amy Klobuchar more than the suggestion, often made by her, that she is being ignored with higher polling rivals. So the Minnesota senator will be thrilled with the amount of attention that she got in the speaking time she received in this debate. Another example of, I think, the media trying to make someone who's really kind of a politician, I think from a different era, politician where she, again, as I said before, she get a list of jokes to read and rattle off and be like, well, this is my can line about this, and this is my can line about that. Like, that is a very, very big part of him, Klobuchar's debate performance. She just does not seem very authentic to me. Like, Elizabeth Warren, she's like, we gotta fight for this. Like, she's like ready to go into battle. But Amy Klobuchar, she's like, well, this is this, and we can make a bigger tank coalition, and yes, with bigger coattails. Like, I don't. She was able to pop that in there for a long time as well. Unlike the past debate, she appeared confident, delivering again and relaxed. She was definitely, I think, a lot more relaxed. It's probably fair. She delivered a new aid-crafted joke though as well about how she's in the same height as James Madison at 5'4". Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see if she can rise in the polls a little bit, because she has not been very popular at all throughout. So Sanders is a top candidate. Bernie Sanders is a top candidate who nobody at this moment wants to attack. That's right. That's right, baby. While Warren and Klobuchar and even the billionaire Tom Steyer took unprovoked shots at Buttigieg, nobody went after the Vermont senator, who's been standing in the race that's only risen since his October heart attack. Buttigieg went after Warren on the free college tuition, even though Sanders holds the same views. Klobuchar couched a disagreement with Sanders' single-payer health care proposal by saying that as president,